Hello everyone. Today I want to share one small story of mine, and this story of mine is not really to motivate you, but just to share my experience. Now, today I want to talk about learning Linux and why Linux can and it will help you in your career. And I have talked about this few times, couple of times I believe, more than a couple of times on my YouTube channel, and I have written blogs about it. But today I thought I'll just focus and talk about Linux. Now, to start with, I want to mention that although I use Linux as my main operating system, I use it on my laptop, and I have been using it for more than 20 years now. In the beginning, it was definitely not at all a smooth experience. I have always used for majority of my experience working with computers. I've used Fedora. I think it was in 2005 when I first started using Fedora, and then I was hooked to it, and I was quite happy with Fedora for many years. I think it was only last year when I tried Arch Linux, and I was, of course, very happy and surprised. For me, moving from Fedora to Arch was not at all difficult. In fact, it was really enjoyable because when I was using Fedora, I was, by the way, using Fedora with KDE. Everything is so easy in Fedora. I mean, you don't really need to worry about so many things. I mean, it was not at all straightforward 12, 13 years ago, because in the beginning it was not even not even straightforward to connect to the Wi-Fi. I remember I had to recompile my kernel to install a driver for my Wi-Fi card, and it was basically the case for almost every application, or most of the applications where I remember we had to build it from source. But of course, that was a learning curve. Now, in this video, I don't really want to bore you with all the things that I have been doing with Linux, but the main thing that I wanted to talk about, and by the way, this will not be just a video. I'll be also uploading this on my podcast, so you can also just listen to it in case you want to. And yes, I do have a podcast. It is on Anchor, and you can find the links on Spotify or Google Podcast, or you can find the link on my website, ravisagar.in. Now, today I wanted to talk about the importance of learning Linux, especially if you are in IT. The kind of work that I do, in case you don't know, I am an Atlassian consultant. This is, of course, my main work that I do for a living. I am an Atlassian consultant. I help organizations adopt Atlassian tools like Jira, Confluence, Bitbucket, and there are so many things that you can do with Atlassian tools. It is not just helping the customers using the tool, but there are so many things involved where we have to migrate, where we have to upgrade the applications, and everything is basically done on Linux-based servers. And apart from my main uh, thing that I do for a living, which is, of course, being an Atlassian consultant, I have also developed websites on Drupal for many years. In fact, most of my websites, even now, they are on Drupal. But of course, I don't really do Drupal services, or I'm not really doing it right now. But even then, I was using Linux. So I started using Linux when I was in the first year of my college in the year 1999. And while I was in college, of course, I tried everything. I was also because in our college we had Windows based machines as well. And back then, Linux used to come in those CDs with digit magazines. And me and my friend Vinod, we used to go to Nehru Place to buy those CDs for 100 rupees or 150 rupees and 200 rupees. It was really nice experience. Back then, I think it was not very simple and easy thing to just get the ISO file. Nowadays, you can download it, and within few minutes, you have the ISO, and you can actually burn it on your USB uh, drive, and you can install Linux, or you can use virtual machines. But back then, it was not the case. So I remember trying different operating systems back then, different flavors. They were not really many, but my first introduction to Linux was in college uh, when I was doing my engineering. It was 1999, and throughout my college life, I tried mostly Windows because in our college labs we used to write code in Turbo C++ or Turbo C in case you remember, in case you're old enough, and and I of course continued using Linux on my own personal computer. And when I graduated, when I somehow uh, passed my engineering, I always had this thing in my mind that I should do something in Linux. And in fact, I did it. I started by helping other companies by giving them Linux based services. I also did some trainings in Linux, and me and my friend Vinod, we also launched a website, a blog back then called linuxindia.com. We still have the domain, but the site is not at all in good shape right now. Right now, the site linuxindia.com is maintained by Emacs org mode. So I publish things using Emacs and org mode, but most of the content, most of the blogs are not really managed properly right now. So this is something that I have in my pipeline. I'll probably organize things if I get some time, hopefully soon. But the idea was that we wanted to promote Linux, and we wanted to promote it in such a way so that people can start using it, people can adopt it. We had this motto that anyone can use Linux, and we were probably not. Uh, I mean, it was not really 100% true back then. I mean, even now, it is not at all straightforward and easy for just anyone to start using Linux. You have to do some work, and it is a bit difficult to be honest. But the good thing is that right now we have so many distributions like Pop OS, and I think last year everyone was talking about Garuda Linux, and I think you still have Fedora. Fedora is great, by the way, in case you want to start. But what I wanted to mainly talk about in this video is that uh, the thing that we did or we used to do back then, like doing a lot of things on Linux and to uh, using it not only for our work, like we used to try to use only open source softwares. I think I did talk about it. Like when I was doing Drupal development, I tried using nothing but open source softwares like Inkspace and GIMP, and it worked, to be honest, really well. But back then, I think at least 15 years ago, or at least I should say at least till 10 years ago, not each and every software was available on Linux. I mean, there were alternatives, but it was not really uh, like nowadays. I mean, nowadays I think you can find almost everything. I remember I used to because I used to do a lot of work on MS Office applications, especially Excel, and I used to try Wine, in case you remember Wine. So I mean, it was possible to set up or install Windows-based applications using Wine. It worked, but it was not really awesome and great. But nowadays, I think you have LibreOffice. It was known as OpenOffice, I guess. And I don't really use that too much right now, but all that experience of doing wonderful things on Linux actually helped me nowadays, or in fact, it has been helping me for almost all my for all my professional career, because I can do things quickly. I can do things efficiently if you are doing things on Linux, and if you know, let us say, even if you know a bit of shell scripting, you can do wonderful things. And that is what I try. For example, if I have to, let us talk about Jira. If you follow my Jira YouTube channel, I mean, if you search on YouTube Ravi Sagar Jira, you will find my channel. I recently made a lot of videos where I showed how you can use shell scripts to interact with Jira. And shell scripting is great. You can make, using curl, you can make a REST call, but using shell scripts, you can combine a lot of things together. Like right now, I use nothing but FFmpeg to make my videos, and I of course use a shell script to organize everything. And it is amazing because you can, if you're using Linux, you have full control over what you want to do, and with the help of scripting you can get the most out of it. But at the same time, if you want to learn how computers work, I think even if you don't just talk about programming in general, I think learning programming, I consider myself fortunate because I studied computer science somehow. I mean, although I didn't really spend too much time reading books, but I was always fascinated by computers. And apart from learning programming, apart from learning those low-level languages like C, C++, and I think in college we also did some work on microprocessors, 8085. It was amazing, by the way. I wish if we could do more of that. But now I don't really get chance to write code in C, C++. But hopefully, in future I'll probably do something about it because I'm missing it, by the way. Now, of course, I do write code as part of my job. I mostly write code in Groovy, and I write a lot of shell scripts and a bit of JavaScript as well whenever needed. But working on Linux, I think has made me very efficient because there is a lot of learning. When you are working on Linux-based operating systems, you have the flexibility to basically fix things, modify things the way you want. And that is why I moved to Arch Linux, because I was using Fedora for many years and I was actually very comfortable with it. And I was feeling that I have not really done anything adventurous for some time. So let us try a new distribution. Arch Linux was, of course, the most obvious choice because when you install Arch Linux, you just get a terminal. That is it. You have to basically build your own distribution. And I really enjoyed and I loved doing that. And I think I'll be very honest with you, by the way. It took me a while. It took me like few months to figure out, and I'm still trying to figure out few more things. But I feel that I am more efficient, quicker than before, because I am now able to control the desktop or modify the desktop. I use, by the way, serverless utilities. So I use ST, I use DWM, and I use dmenu to work on my computer. And I think I've customized each and everything. I have a lot of shortcuts now to match my needs. For example, if I want to search for a file, I can press a shortcut. I can search for a file. I can open it in Emacs, or I have a shortcut to open Emacs as well with org mode. And I also have shortcuts to control the music or to increase the volume. Like right now, if I press Alt plus on my keyboard, it will increase the volume. So there is a music playing in the background using MPD. And I have been sharing this experience of mine. And I have also configured this. I've basically collected all the configurations which I have published as a blog post, because I don't really want to give you a shell script that you can run and you have like a working environment. The idea here is to learn how to do it yourself. And when you do things yourself, I think that is when learning happens. So that is all I wanted to talk about today. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, in case you're watching this video on YouTube, or you enjoyed listening to this podcast, in case you are listening to the podcast. Thank you very much.